On today's episode, we tell you what prospects you need to be paying attention to when Texas faces off against Arizona State. Their star running back Cam Skattebo is the engine, the nucleus. He is everything, but can he lead them to a victory? We'll talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays. And you know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champion, and the other side to this dynamic dude that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. And I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft DP. Let's get this thing started, man. We are talking Texas versus Arizona State college football playoffs, right? We have offensive prospects that we're going to break down. We have defensive prospects we're going to break down. And then we're going to end this show off with the X Factor prospects. This is going to be an action-packed show. DPs, we got to tell the listener to stay tuned the entire time. DP, let's get into these offensive guys to watch.
Man, offensive guys to watch, Keith. And I'm starting with, because this is a game where most people feel like the athleticism is going to be a disparity, right? All facets of the game. I feel like Texas has the better athletes all around. I got to go to our guy, Matthew Golden, Keith. I think he is just like, again, he's my wide receiver 5 right now. I know a lot of people still haven't woken up to him, but you need to. Like, he is an absolute baller who has the speed, the route running, the patience, the detail, the nuance, and the ball skills down the field with the ball in the air. He's fearless to go up to the catch point. And this is a game where similar to, and it's crazy because it's kind of similar to the game yesterday that we talked about, Boise State versus Penn State. Cam Skattebo is the heart, the soul, the engine, the nucleus, whatever you want to detail him as. He's the same thing Xavier Gentry is to Boise State. He's that to Arizona State. But Keith, how do you take a running back out of the game? You score. Quinn Ewers in that offense, I mean, heck, they just ran for like 300 yards against Clemson's defensive line. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I would be shocked if they try to do the exact same thing and just punch Arizona State in the mouth and say, what you got for us? But I think Matthew Golden could have a big game, just getting one-on-one coverage. And Quinn, hey, if he gets to the opportunity to tap back into what they had, that success they had against Georgia's defense, where early in that game, it was Quinn and Golden over and over again down the field. I think Matthew Golden absolutely should be a big-time player in this game to watch because, again, I feel like nobody outside of us, I don't feel like anybody's talking about Matthew Golden as a 2025 wide receiver prospect. But, man, they need to, Keith. They need to.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and definitely a difference maker because what you've realized thus far, if there's going to be a passing attack, right, the passing attack is going to start with Matthew Golden. DP, I'm gonna name another guy though. That's a sub, kind of flying on the radar, but he's had some productive games. Tight end from Texas, Gunnar Helm, right? And we talked about him and where he could be placed, right? And maybe not in that top tier, right? But you start talking about the second, third tier. He looks like a guy that quarterback Quinn Ewers is comfortable getting the football to. He's a instinctual football player. He can make some big time plays in crunch situations. You're talking about scramble drill. You're talking about things kind of falling apart, and then I just find my security blanket over the middle of the field. That's what Gunnar Helm can serve as for Quinn Ewers in this football game. But we got to talk about Cam Skattebo, DP. We're talking about offensive prospects to watch because, like you said, it's much like the Boise State game to where if Arizona State wants any potential and opportunity to win this game, Cam Skattebo feels like he has to go for 150 to 200 rushing yards, right? And he has to be the engine. He has to set the tone. And I look at it from a physicality mentality standpoint, right? Like you have to go right through a Baron Sorrell, a Vernon Broughton, a Alfred Collins. He's not draft eligible, right? But their linebacker Anthony Hill. You have to give it to on the perimeter, Jade Barron, right? Like you have to do something to make the rest of those guys think twice about tackling, because you're extremely the feeling and the sentiment is that you are outmatched, right? And so how do you kind of even that up? It's like, you know what? We're just gonna bring the hammer, right? At the end of the day, we like, well, and I know the Saints used to do this, like just bring the wood, right? And we're gonna just swing at it and figure it out. But one thing we're not gonna do, people are not gonna say we solved, and we're gonna beat you up and then figure it out after that, right? Like we'll let the scoreboard be finished. All we worried about is play after play, being more out physical than y'all.
No, 100%, Keith. It's crazy because, like you said, he's everything for Arizona State. For example, like this year, he's rushed for over 1,500 yards, close to 1,600 yards on the ground, and 19 rushing touchdowns. Keith, do you know that he's the second leading receiver on this team?
That's
as
crazy.
Well. Like I want to make sure I'm looking at the yardage correct. Yes, he has 506 receiving yards, 42 targets, 37 receptions, 3 receiving touchdowns. And what's bad about it for them is the fact that their star wide receiver Jordan Tyson is out for the he's injured, like a broken collarbone. So I
think he got hurt before the Big 12 championship, I believe. The last game of the season, he got injured.
So it's like not having that, like, over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns and speed and route running that he brings to kind of like help get Sam Levitt going, their quarterback, who's been efficient and played good ball this year. Now you got to do it against an elite Texas defense who has a secondary, a linebacker core, and a front five at times that can absolutely wreck a game. Cam Skattebo is going to have to do everything when they get him to screen games. And it's crazy because this is a game where I think his yards after contact is going to be pivotal. Out of his 1,500 yards, Keith, over 1,085 of his 15, almost 600 yards rushing have come after contact. He's averaging over 4 yards per carry after contact. Like, this is a game where Cam Skattebo is probably going to have to make his money after the initial contact, which we know he has that kind of beast mode type of mentality where it's just like, I'm not going down on first contact. I don't care who comes through the front through the line of scrimmage. If you blitz, you get a nickel on me as a free blitzer, you run blitz me, it doesn't really matter. I'm trying to break every single tackle that I can. He just has that I won't go down mentality, that angry, just runner mentality. And I think it's going to work well. It's been working well for him all season, but this is a team that you see Andrew Bakuba out there striking and doing the things they're able to do. This defense is going to give them everything that they can handle and probably plus some. So in this game, like I'm looking at it, that offensive line is going to be pivotal for Arizona State. Their center, Ben Coleman, Keith, we watched Clemson get down to the 1 yard line, down 2 touchdowns, still time left. Couldn't punch it in because that defensive line from Texas was so physical. You saw guys get pushed back from the 1 yard line to the 2.5 yard line, and then the play is dead, right? So that Ben Coleman, the center, that offensive line, Keith, for Arizona State, I think it's Lefe Fautanu. I'm not sure if he's family to our guy Troy Fautanu over there with the Steelers. Might be a relative, but nonetheless, like that offensive line has to play its best ball. Like they have to play elite football in this game, because if they don't, they may not have a shot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm going to wrap this segment up with a guy that we talked about a lot preseason, right? And it just hasn't been able to put everything together for various reasons. Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond. And, college is a little different with the injury stuff. We know that he was out in the game against Clemson, but if he's healthy, I would like to see what he's going to do, right? Like what plays are he going to make? Can he provide some balance? And, maybe the role is, you 1B to Matthew Golden's 1A, right? And do you provide some explosive plays? Are you a guy that they do jet sweep handoffs off? Do you do orbit motions? Things like that, right? I think if you look at the
slot, Keith. Put him in the slot, because Arizona State is out there. Their top defensive back, who's their nickel corner, Shamari Simmons, he's going to be out the first half of that game because of a targeting call from the Big 12 championship game. Right, I hate that stupid penalty. So he's gonna miss the first half. Like that's an opportunity to honestly make this game not a game before halftime.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. So I look at Isaiah Bond and want to see what he can do. Just I don't say the re-emergence, but the kind of just planting your flag a little bit and just saying, hey, I'm here, right? I'm here. You might want to respect me and deal with me. What he can do, because we know that he's an explosive playmaking wide receiver. DP. Let's flip sides of the football, man. What are we going to? The defensive prospects to watch. Talk about that coming up next.
Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. Defensive prospects to watch when Arizona State faces off with Texas, Keith. And I think you mentioned Barron Sorrell earlier in the show, Keith, in the first topic. I think he's like, again, like this is a good edge group, and I understand there's a lot of names, but I feel like nobody's talking about Barron Sorrell really but you. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're the only one that consistently reminds us all about Barron Sorrell. 24 hurries on the season, 8 sacks, 11 QB hits. I don't really know what else you need to do to make people take account for what you bring to the table, but I expect them, similar to the Ashton Gentry thing, they're going to try to take Cam Skattebo out of this game. And if you can score early if you're Texas, Keith, that's going to put Sam Leavitt, the young quarterback, in true passing situations, true passing sets. And this Barron Sorrell has been balling this year, you know what I mean, as a true pass rusher. And his ability to get into the backfield, him and the freshman Colin Simmons, like that tandem of pass rushers. Yep. Yeah, it's I don't think Arizona State's, I don't think they've seen anything like this all season. And I expect Barron Sorrell, when they come down to true drop back sets, his pass rush win rate goes from 14.5 to 18%. He gets into the backfield when he needs to. When you tell him, pin your ears back, big fella, go get the quarterback. He's done that all season long. So that's probably one of the top guys I think that we should be watching from a defensive side of the ball perspective.
Yeah, DP, and the name, like if you talk about the trenches for Texas, they continue to go, right? Because they have so many draft eligible guys. You talk about Alfred Collins, right? A guy that made some plays, I think, against Clemson. Bill Norton, who you talked about that run stopping situation against Clemson late. I believe he had a big time role in that. And you talk about Vernon Broughton. That's 3 defensive linemen, 6'4, 6'5, 300 plus pounds, right? You talking about a lot of, just manpower up there in these trenches. And like you said, could this be something that Arizona State simply hasn't seen? Why the trench is so important? Because we talked about the run game, Cam Skattebo, right? If you're able to tackle him, hit him before he can even get started, and then tackle in bunches, that changes the game, right? Like that doesn't allow him to get going. You force Arizona State to have to pass the football. But I'm also looking at a guy, I watched him over the summer, DP, David Jabenda, right? The linebacker for Texas. What is he going to be able to do? And I didn't think he was bad, right? There were some things I feel like he had to clean up, but not a bad football player. Like I think he's an NFL guy. Like he'll play in the NFL in some capacity, right? Especially with how, I guess, lackluster the linebacker plays in the NFL, right? Some guys that play, I'm like, I don't get it. But, it's all good, right? Then we have to talk about, too, I'm interested to see what they do with Jalen Gilbo. I think he's a true junior DP, and he's not talked about much as far as a draft prospect, but plays a very important role. I believe he's the guy that allowed Jahdae Barron to be able to kick outside, right, and play outside corner, because he kind of manned that kind of star nickel role. And he's kind of more of a nickel type body, right? Like probably like 5'9" ish, like he's more of a squatty build, thick legs, right? Can have some presence in a run game, and he's gonna have to show up. Cam Skattebo is gonna try to bounce some things. You got to be ready to tackle that guy, right? So the Arizona State Skattebos, you got to be ready to tackle Cam Skattebo at the end of the day. So I look at those couple players for Texas.
Yeah, the Arizona State Scatterboos is crazy, but it's the truth. It's the absolute truth, and that's what they are, right? And it's crazy because I had just started kind of paying attention to David Jabinda, and I was going to mention him right before you did. 6 foot 235. He kind of, at times he's like that one of those rotational guys for him because they rotate so many guys in that front seven. But like his ability to track like athletic quarterbacks and blitz and be a delayed blitzer and things of that nature. Him, Anthony Hill. That linebacker core, like if Cam Skattebo gets to your level, you like listen. Don't let it make it a pride thing. Don't make it an ego thing. Just wrap up and try to bring him down. Like if you can't bring him down yourself, hold him up so you can gang tackle him because he's just incensed of physicality. Like he doesn't care. Like you know what I mean. That's one of those running backs is just like, yeah, man. Like he's going to bring it for 4 quarters, right? Like it doesn't matter. Like the energy he has in the first quarter, it's the same in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you have to beware of people, DP, and this is a life lesson, right? That people that are willing to hurt themselves to hurt you, those are dangerous people, right? And Cam Skattebo is a guy that's willing to hurt himself to hurt you, right? So it applies to life. But furthermore, in football, right? We're talking football over here. He's willing to hurt himself to hurt you. Yes. And that's a different threshold that some people are not comfortable with, right? Which it's different, right? Like I'm willing to inflict pain on myself. What do you do with a running back like that? What do you do with a person like that, right? And that's his mentality. It's like, listen, we'll both be hurt, but I guess at the end of the day, I'll be a little less hurt than you. Maybe that's the threshold for this for Cam Skattebo thought process. But when you watch him play, obviously it's about inflicting pain on people.
100%. I think when you say that, Keith, I think back to that. It was years ago when James Harden was on the Rockets, and he got mad at he didn't get a foul call, and he like slammed the ball on the court, and then it popped up and smacked him in the face. Yeah. And I remember Josh Hart walking by, looking at him like he was crazy. Like, yo, look, what's wrong with my man here? That's what you think about when you're dealing with a guy like Cam Skattebo. Like he has the NFL build. Like he's big, he's strong, he's physical, but then his ability to catch. I think they're going to try and get him out in space to try and alleviate some of that pressure. Like, okay, we know you're going to try to stop the run. Let's get him into the screen game. Let's get him into the underneath game, and then make those corners like Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba at the second. Make those DBs try and tackle him. And like for Arizona State, I think that their safety Xavier and Alford got 54 tackles on the season, 6 foot, 200 pounds, man. Like he's going to be big. He's covered well all season, man. Like again, with this offense for Texas has so much explosiveness in the passing attack. Ryan Wingo has speed. Is Isaiah Bond? I think this one of those situations where like Isaiah Bond's speed can make like he catch one of those short passes, you get one block on the perimeter, and then you just see the separation. You know what I mean? Because he honestly has that Xavier Worthy 4.2, 4.3 type of speed. Alford, Xavier and Alford has to be able to stay over the top, play sound football, be smart, be very diligent. He plays mostly at free safety. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona State goes to more some cover one or single high, because we just saw what they did to Clemson. Like just absolutely dominated them in the trenches with the run game, whether it was Wisner or Jaden Blue, and that's the other guy. Jaden, like you got to be able to stop this because we talked about it, Keith, last week. Quinn Ewers just managed the game. He didn't have to do a lot versus Clemson. This is a game where, honestly, he could end up having 300-something yards passing and look like a first-round pick if you're not able to stop him and stop that passing attack or stop the running attack as well. Xavier Alford, the safety, I think he's one of their best defenders for Arizona State. I'm talking about especially draft-eligible guys. I think he's got a big-time opportunity to just kind of stamp himself as one of the these, again, nobody's watching safeties. We've learned that. To be one of those guys that say, hey, listen, I'm one of the better safeties in this class. Keith Abney, I think he's like a sophomore. of the 5'11", 185 at corner. These guys they're gonna have to cover. They're gonna have to cover. Like with the receivers that Texas have, you don't really have a shot if you can't keep. And I wouldn't play man to man. I wouldn't play close up to the line of scrimmage. I'm playing off, and I'm making them dunk it down, right? And we're gonna rally to the ball. I'm not trying to give them any opportunity to run full speed past us. You know what I'm saying? Because I misstep, I shot the wrong hand in press coverage, and no, I'm not trying to let Golden get over the top of me and take off. I'm not trying to let Bond do the same thing. They got their hands full. The Arizona State defense has their hands full against this Texas offense.
Yeah, DP, and I'll go back. That was a good name pull with Xavier Alford, and I say this is kind of like a I don't say a revenge game because I don't feel like he may not feel like that, but it's kind of like a homecoming too because out of high school, I recruited him out of when I was at LSU, right? But he initially started at Texas, right? He committed out of high school, went to Texas, played for the powerhouse out there in Houston, Shadow Creek. So this kind of it means something, right? Like that's where I started. We got to figure this out, right? And so I think that's going to be fun to just kind of see the emotions that he plays with because, like I said, he started his college career at Texas, so that'll definitely be fun. But DP, what we gonna do, man? We're talking X Factor prospects, right? Which guys are going to be the difference makers in this game? We're gonna talk about that coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. X Factor prospects to watch when Arizona State faces Texas. Keith, and I think majority of the X Factors are probably going to be in Arizona State. Like, you guys have to step up and make plays. I look at, he's not draft eligible yet, but CJ Fight, 6'1", 295-pound defensive lineman. Again, we saw what happened versus Clemson. Like, they ran, two running backs went over 100-plus yards and I think maybe 2 touchdowns in that game. And Jaden Blue has the breakaway home run hitting speed. And the crazy thing about it is this rushing attack is so potent, and their actual number 1 running back is out for the season. Like their most talented dude is out for the season. And shout out to Sark for his recruiting and what he's been able to do over there. But that like Arizona State's defensive line, to me, that entire that full defensive line, Keith, CJ Fight, like all those guys, you know what I mean? They're gonna have to play their best ball. They're the X factors because if you can stop the run without committing too many bodies to it, because you don't want to leave your secondary hanging against these athletes that Texas have. You know what I mean? And we talked about all these receivers, and Gunnar Helm gets one-on-one against a strong safety or a linebacker, and it's like, yeah, that's a mismatch. You know what I mean? Because of how good he is. So it's like you got to stop the run or slow the run down early in this game with just 4 or 5 guys on the defensive line, and then your linebackers running, filling run lanes. I don't really want to run cover one or single high a ton in this game, Keith, because then Quinn Ewers looks at it. It's a veteran quarterback. He goes, checks out of the run, play action, or RPO it. We're going down the field, baby, and we're trying to make explosive. So I think that entire defensive line for Arizona State are the biggest X factors in this game. Because if you can't do your job and hold up in the run game, this could get ugly.
Yeah, DP, you talk about that. I'm gonna go Texas offensive line, because we know that the Texas passing attack has been up and down, right? Like it's been some games it's been hitting on all cylinders, some games it's been very questionable. And so not even about the passing attack, it's about establishing a run game that you've talked about. And they have to move some guys, right? And they have veteran guys up front. You talk about obviously Calvin Banks, right? But then Hayden Connor is a senior, Jake Majors is a senior, DJ Campbell is a junior, and then Cameron Williams, a guy that people are talking about right as a top 100 prospect, that's another guy, right? So I want to see what they're going to do. And I think Jake Majors, he should be healthy. I know he had an injury at some point in the season, but should be healthy. And so I'm looking at Texas offensive line like, hey, do y'all make it easy for Quinn Ewers, right? And just like you said, he could go for 300 yards passing, but he also could do the opposite side of that where he walked out of here with 181 yards passing, right? And they ran the football for 300 yards. You want to be able to say like, hey, we can win this game simply from dominating against the trenches, right? Like that's what's supposed to separate the best teams in college football is the trenches. And you look at Texas, they're supposed to be able to dominate that.
No, 100% without question, right? Like, and you look at it from, looking at the numbers, like, yeah, I mean, Arizona State doesn't have a great pass rush either. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's definitely an uphill climb. Another X factor, Keith, and it's just because he's going to have to be. Xavier Gentry, the wide receiver, senior wide receiver for Arizona State. He started his career at Idaho State, played 3 years there, and then transferred to Arizona State. His best year was actually in 2022 against he was at Idaho State for over almost 800 yards receiving. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. Without Tyson being in this game, right? Without your number one wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, someone else has to step up in this passing attack. Like, you cannot leave Sam Levitt out there hanging to dry, by himself. Like, you got to help this young man out. And that's why for me, it's like, Cam Skattebo can't, yes, he's your second leading receiver this season. And when Jordan Tyson's in the game, cool, that's fine. But in this matchup, somebody's got to step up into that wide receiver one role and make a play. And it's, to me, this is a guy who has the physical ability to do so. Xavier Gentry, hey, stamp yourself. You're going to probably face off with Jahdae Barron. Go make some plays. Go make some scouts and GMs stand up in their seats and say, who is that guy? Who's number one for Arizona State? Because he's giving Jahdae Barron some trouble. You got to be able to do this because, again, it just – Keith, I know that you you didn't go down the path, but you caught yourself. You wanted to light up the CFP committee for how they handled everything.
Did I?
Yeah, you wanted to, right? I will say this. Where they messed up at was seeding and how they set matchups up. Because to me, I would have rather seen Clemson, Texas round 2
right now.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, I would have rather see that. These two games, the Penn State game we talked about yesterday and the game that we're talking about right now, I don't feel good about them, Keith. I just don't. I have a feeling, I love Arizona State, the physicality, the Cinderella stuff. Yeah, Texas looks like a freaking buzzsaw right now. And listen, Oregon's the favorite right now, but if Texas plays Texas football, Texas can walk out of this thing as national champions. Straight up. They have the talent, the coaching staff. They have everything in place to do so. I'm just not feeling these two matchups, the one from yesterday and today. I expect to see a lot more Twitter rants from people who wanted Bama and South Carolina in. I'm about to see a lot more of those where it's just
you'll get some Twitter rants from me. You'll get some conversations.
These might be blowouts, Keith.
Right now, I'm 2 for 2. Right? I said what? Indiana. I said SMU. And then, Arizona State, Boise State. I'm kind of 2 for 2, but it was 4 teams that I had question marks by, right? And I get it, the deserving versus the most talented, but we'll see, right? And like you said, it's the seeding thing. Make these games the first round games, right? Throw away the automatic bids and all that stuff. Look, you just get in, and then we're gonna still put you.
Clemson could have had a bye because they won the ACC. You could have been Clemson with a bye. You could have given we could have had. The first round was just, instead of Indiana, Notre Dame, you could have given us Indiana, SMU. I feel like that would have been a fireworks game. You know what I mean? Scoring galore for both of those teams. You could have given us Notre Dame and maybe Notre Dame and Penn State. You know what I'm saying? Or Notre and Ohio State. Well, Ohio State played Tennessee. So you could have given us Clemson, Tennessee, Ohio State, Texas. You could have given us better matchups. I don't know what in the world the committee was doing. Or not give Boise State and darn Arizona State. And like I said, I'm cool with Arizona State. I'm cool. I understand the concept. But these matchups, dear God, I don't know what was the thought process when they looked at the final product and said, all right, so if Penn State win, they get Boise. If Texas or Clemson win, they get Arizona State. Yeah, what were we thinking about here? You know what I mean? Oh, if whoever wins from Indiana or Notre Dame, they face Georgia. What? You know what I'm saying? Oregon's sitting there well, you went undefeated for this? We get Ohio State or Tennessee?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right out the gate first. Come on, man. The CFP, this was a trial run. Next year, I expect there going to be a little bit more parameters about how they set some stuff up. Because right now, the heat they take, they earned it.
Yeah, and if they want to get it right, I say ask me, right? I'll help them out. You know what I'm saying? If they want to get it right, ask me at the end of the day. But DP,
I wasn't expecting
that. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the talent code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays. On tomorrow's episode, we're getting into the other two playoff games, guys. Ohio State and Oregon, Notre Dame and Georgia. We're going to talk about the prospects that you need to watch on New Year's Day. All football is on New Year's Day. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.